I'm Glenn Kurth. My good friend Mark Moore and I have always wanted to make a travel show. So we started in France.
20 hours traveling.
That was a long ass time. I don't really want to talk about
12
that.
of which were on a plane.
I'm still feeling it. I'm still reeling.
3 of which were in customs.
I still feel like shit. I've done nothing but squirt liquid black shit out of my ass since we got here.
After all, over 80 million people a year come through this country as tourists, so it seemed a fitting place then to start my travel host career.
Well, we're here in Lyon, and it's raining, which sucks.
Obviously, I didn't like the weather in Lyon, so we went to the Mediterranean.
Well, we came to see the great waterfall of Nice, but there's no water, so I guess it's back to the beach, sadly.
So far, hosting wasn't going very well, so I went for a travel advisory segment on the bus.
In Nice, the bus is a little rougher than the average bus in France, and this driver in particular is pretty aggressive. You spend a whole lot of time just monkeying around in the bars. If you get a seat, you're lucky, but if you have to stand, you're pretty much left to the rules.
After strike 3, I knew the show would have to kick it up a notch. It needed something epic. So I set out to find some ruins. But as I meandered through the park harvesting native olives, I couldn't help but wonder if I was really up to the task of hosting a travel show. I was tired and had been sober for too long. What was I supposed to say about a millennia-old Colosseum? What was left to say? And finding religion didn't help. Nevertheless, when I finally reached my destination, it was time to get to it and drop some balls.
Right smack dab in the middle of the Cimier district of Nice is this Roman Colosseum. They used to have 2,000 people seated here watching blood, sport, and spectacle. Now it's just a repository for broken beer bottles, tennis balls, and an assortment of trash and cigarette butts. Ruins always remind me of the civilization that's lost. Was it better than ours? Probably not. But it does seem to be a nice after-school hangout for the kids. Actually, speaking of which, I bet one of them has a joint. Excuse me.
Sadly, despite my insistence, the children didn't have any drugs. And apparently Mark was less than pleased with my performance. So the next day he ventured forth to see some gems of southern France.
And venture forth I did. Hunger was calling to me. There was food in my near future, the smell coming into my nostrils. I was here to explore the vast potential of an open-air market, and this one in Nice was the biggest. Yes, the biggest in France even. In fact, it was the largest one in the whole world. Ever, I think. The sheer selection is astounding. There's flowers, pineapples, grapes, other grapes, meats, more meats, charcuterie, stuff, tiny little accoutrements, people, fish hawkers, wheat, lobsters, soaps, even more soaps, oils, oil cans, cheese, fromage, cheeses, green beans, tomatoes, red potatoes, mushrooms, greens, reds, oranges, fruits, and then there's spices. Holy shit. There's more tea than there should ever be. An unusual amount of tea. My senses all being assaulted at once. Sel fume, aphrodisiac, sel barbecue, wasabi, sel du mois, sel au wasabi, purple, oranjan, sucre lavender, banana cocktail, infusion Florida, over, long. What the fuck is infusion Florida? Food in hand, it was time to head back to enjoy my spoils. The delicious flavor of an eclair. But the job wasn't finished, and my appetite for adventure had yet to be sated. We're here at the Paloma Beach in St. John Peninsula, here in Nice, outside of Nice. It's a beautiful place. There's a lot of construction going on somewhere over the hill. It's alright though. This is the place of affluence. People come here to get away, and for weeks on end. There's a yacht festival, I think, going on around the tip of the land over there. Possibly one of the nicest beaches in the world, full of pebbles.
Now that Mark had nearly destroyed the show with his laissez-faire attitude, I took the reins back to go for really epic. I went for Eze.
It's fucking tourist central here. Tourist. It's bad.
This winding maze of stone and stairs is perched atop a modest mountain overlooking the Mediterranean. But to reach the very top, you'll have to climb your way there, and then pay €6. Still, the view from the top is spectacular.
Not only do you have to navigate an entire labyrinth of alleyways, rocks, stairs, you also have tourists to contend with. By the hundreds. Each one of them is taking a selfie or jerking themselves off. We're enjoying the view, but they're a hazard just like everything else, so watch your step. But it's well worth the visit. There's not many places in the world where you can find these kinds of extravagant views, or natural fed springs. It's not an actual spring, it's fake. They've just been lying the whole time. What a bunch of shit. Hey, at least you don't have that kid's life. Well, as a fucking cameraman, you shouldn't have a loose shoe. By the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but I learned how to tie shoes the really bad way, as in you make the 2 loops. That's one of my life's greatest regrets. I wish that I had learned how to tie shoes like everybody else, but I didn't. So, there you go, you can be a cameraman now.
After such a climb, Mark and I were getting steadily more hungry. But then we saw something that really whetted our appetites. Unfortunately, our time in the Mediterranean was coming to a close. Mark and I were now headed for Paris. Yes, Paris, known for the parks, the arts, the statues, the monuments, the architecture. And that's where Mark wanted to start, so we sent him to Versailles. But Paris is also known for its incredible selection of baked goods.
This is how you do bread. This is how it's supposed to happen. Like this. Très bien.
Bon et rosé. Fantastic pastry. Very flaky. Absolutely fantastic. Paris seems to be constantly under construction. We're building a better future. I think.
As much as Mark and I wanted to continue hosting the show, the truth was we were exhausted. So we needed a backup host, somebody cool and confident with a bad boy vibe, someone who knows where they're going. Someone like Todd Harris. So we flew him in from the States to take over the show.
Parlez-vous français? That is something that you would ask if you were where I am right now. Paris. And the answer most likely would be, oui, because the native tongue here is français. I was sent here to save the show. But like any good travel show host, I needed the perfect location. Luckily, I have an extremely heightened sense of direction. First, I arrived at Notre Dame, home to some of the world's most renowned scholars. But it didn't look much like a college campus. Then, I found the Plaza du Fontaine. It was, wet? Sadly, everything so far had been subpar. So I headed to the train for some meditation. Renewed, I got myself off at the next stop. But after leaving the station, I realized where I was.
Le Centre du Commercial, which outside of France means the mall.
But it was too late to pull out. I had to conceive something here.
Welcome to Paris, France, the biggest and largest city in all of Italy. The Travel Channel just recognized Paris as one of the top 3 or 5 most exciting places to visit in the European states. I would have to agree. They are setting up right now for what they call the Nuit Blanche, which is the White Night. I have no idea what that reference is. And as I said, it is very exciting. Not for me. There's a lot to eat, a lot to do. There's many malls, although you would imagine the mall in Paris would be better than a mall maybe say in San Francisco, but it is not. It is just as shit. But here we are anyways, and we will see what we can do with it tonight on the White Night. Nuit Blanche, Paris, Italy. This is Todd Harris, signing in, signing out.
Before I head back out to make consensual love to Paris, I told Glenn to cue the B-roll while I get ready.
What is that? but we are starting our night at the Lou. We have traveled here, but we're starting at the Lou. We made ourselves. We are starting our night at the Lou. We have traveled miles to see it, and unfortunately it's closed, so I will have to pee on the street. Join me.
Glenn decided I needed to sober up with some of France's #1 export, pizza.
Here we are at the Nude Blanche. I'm very excited. Everyone's very, very excited. Just follow us, and we're gonna have a fucking great night. Look at this shit. There's stuff going on everywhere. It's fucking nuts.
Millions of people come from all over the country to dance with their fellow Francinians in protest of a king and queen who have ruled this land for 1,000 years. It's kind of sad to look down and see them dancing, knowing that 50, maybe even 100, will face the guillotine tonight in the town square, just like Marie Antoinette.
Nude Blanche.
We're heading now to one last Nuit Blanche celebration on one of Paris' iconic bridges, the Bridge du Paris.
What are you spelling? Italians.
All throughout the night, along the Seine River, workers spell out artistic phrases with giant block letters. And while remembering our past few days in France, we decided to end the show on one that seems appropriate.